Can the Dallas Cowboys steal a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 5? Get it, Landon? Steal it. All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. And Landon, we've made it to Friday. There's still some players that are somewhat healthy on the Cowboys roster. I guess they're going to try to play this weekend. I guess that's the plan.
Apparently, they've decided not to cancel the whole game because of a lack of players to play on. Frankly, on both sides, really. You know, like both teams seemingly losing players to attrition at this point. So they decided to go ahead with the game. So we'll cover it and we'll talk about it no matter what.
All right. So, yes, the Cowboys play the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football in Week 5. Here's the theme of today's show. How can the Cowboys steal a win? And let's start with the Cowboys offense, because of the two units, this is the offense, or this is the side of the ball that's the healthiest, right? And this is the one that probably gives them the biggest advantage. So the Cowboys going up against Pittsburgh's top-ranked defense, how do they score enough points to win here?
Yeah, this is the side of the ball that pits the two best parts of the team against each other. If you're going to do it, I'm going to pull one out too. There's just no way it's not going to happen. Listen, this is a really tough matchup. I mean, I think this is one of the ones that we've been pointing to for a while as far as, defenses that this offense is going to have to go against this season. This Pittsburgh matchup may be as tough as it gets the whole season. We'll see San Francisco, but they've had some struggles at times, kind of stopping the run so far this year. We've got a couple other, teams that are a little bit down a little bit further in the schedule, but I can't imagine that we're going to face a more difficult defensive line, at least, or front seven than what we're going to face against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the good news for the Cowboys is that they may be missing a couple of folks, but even without Highsmith out there, a lot of incredible guys, it's going to be very difficult. I think this is the area in which you really hope, that your offense was going to start to kind of continue the thaw that we saw last week with against the Giants. It doesn't help that suddenly Brandon Cooks is injured and he can't play. And so now you're going to have to play kind of an even younger crew of wide receivers behind CeeDee Lamb. So I think it's going to be uphill battle. I mean, and then now we're hearing that the weather's going to potentially be bad, so it's going to potentially be a kind of a sloppy game, which is definitely not the kind of game that the Cowboys want to get into with the Steelers. So I think that the Cowboys' run game is going to have to find a way to get better this week. The offensive line's going to have to find a way to create some movement, which again, when you're going against the likes of Hayward and Watt and these guys and Benton potentially in the middle, it's tough sledding, but they're going to have to find a way to create some space because I just don't know that it's going to be a consistent passing game this week with what they're facing. They have to be able to move the ball. And it can't just be the CeeDee Lamb show, not against a really good defense with a really good pass rush. They've got to find other ways to kind of help that passing game out and move the ball, because it's going to be very difficult if they just try to get back there and throw the ball 65 plus times against this pass rush.
It will be difficult. However, that is the way to beat Pittsburgh. Like I've watched all these Mike Tomlin games where you lose against the Steelers. If you try to play 12 personnel, 21 personnel, and run the football on first and second down and try to play that style of football, you're going to lose because they're going to run blitz. Their big packages are better than the Cowboys' big packages. Yep. And they have Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi. Like, they will stop the run first and foremost, right? the way to beat Pittsburgh, and this is something that the Bill Belichick Patriots have figured out with Josh McDaniels, is you play 11 personnel or whatever you want to do, and you spread them out, right? Pittsburgh hates getting out of base defense, and really they hate getting out of their nickel defense even more. What they don't do traditionally is follow players. And I got some word earlier this week that they are not going to have Joey Porter travel with CeeDee Lamb. So that gives you some really good matchups in the middle of the field. But you have to be willing to throw the ball 40, 50 times in this game and get rid of the ball quick. But if the weather is going to be bad, and we're a couple days out here in Pittsburgh area, it seems like right now it's like a 50% chance of rain. And even if it does rain, it's going to be pretty light rain. But that field gets sloppy really quickly. If the Cowboys are committed to like, hey, we're not going to be running the ball unless we get a big lead and we're going to run on short yardage, that's actually their best path to success in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the problem is all the stuff that we've talked about, right? Like the fact that Cooks is going to be out, the fact that you got a young
really
group.
hard.
Yeah. So it's a difficult strategy. It's, and you're not wrong in the sense that the passing the ball is where you have the most advantage because you have CeeDee Lamb, because their corners probably are the weakest aspect of their defense, right?
And they play a lot of man against heavy personnel situations, but once you spread them out, they default back into their zone. And that's where you can get a CeeDee Lamb matched up against a Patrick Queen one-on-one from the slot. That's where, I mean, I'm sure Pittsburgh's going to have some variations where they're going to double. They'll have Minkah Fitzpatrick come and be like the robber. But I do think that's the best strategy here if the Cowboys want to win, is to throw on early downs. It's what the Colts did last week. Joe Flacco was just slinging the ball on first and second down, and they kind of ignored the run. It's how they got a big lead. That's how the Cowboys will probably need to attack it if they want to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think they still have to find a way to efficiently run the ball at some point during this game because, getting into that sort of attack is, I think, you want to get Pittsburgh on their back foot. Like, I think that's definitely the case. Like, you don't want to get into a situation where they get an early lead or they allow you to kind of continue to make this a close game, into the fourth quarter, because that's where things will really get difficult. Like because they have the kind of defense to bear you down, to slog you down. You're not going to be able to just run the clock out at them necessarily, but even though you find success, you're going to find success. And the main part of the engine of your offense is going to be through the air. They still are going to need to find a couple of ways to be efficient, at least in the run game, in order to kind of continue to move the ball and keep, at least the pass rush off their feet.
It just historically, the best way to run against Pittsburgh is out of shotgun, right? Where you have them spread out, and now they can't run blitz. I'm telling you, Pittsburgh loves nothing more than you being in 12 personnel and trying to run the ball on first down, because they will blitz their linebackers like crazy and dare you to run play. They'll dare you to run play action, because what's going to happen is TJ Watt doesn't care about the run on first down. What he's doing is chasing your quarterback and puts you in bad situations. So if you can run on, 2nd and 3 out of shotgun, I think that's where you're going to have the most success. But this is not a game where I think the Cowboys want to try to be in 12, 13 personnel. It will not work.
Yeah, that's the real unfortunate thing, is that, like, you're right, schematically, they don't want to play a bunch of big personnel, but personnel wise, because their Cooks is missing, they probably would normally want to, right?
Yes.
But I think that they should resist that a little bit. Maybe what you do is you kind of try to get a little bit of the best of both worlds, and you see some John Stevens, because we have not seen him yet. I think he's finally healthy and potentially going to be active for this game. Maybe you see him kind of split out in the slot a little bit to create some mismatches.
Great strategy. If you want to throwing the ball out of 12 and 13, if the goal is to spread them out, works, because then it makes it really hard for Pittsburgh to send their exotic blitzes, because you see where it's coming, right? And now you just have way more of these zones wide open. But again, if they're going to try to play action at a 12 and 13 under center, they're not going to have a lot of success.
Yeah, and they just have to be, I think that they've got to run the ball efficiently, but you're right. The way to do that is to kind of run out of more non-traditional formations
Yes.
and try to find the edges there, which is maybe how they find a success in the passing game as well, too, is that throwing out of maybe they do, get some 12, some 21 personnel out there and then throw the ball, and then see how they can win that way.
And out of shotgun, I just really quickly, because we haven't mentioned him yet, TJ Watt. He's a phenomenal pass rusher, but he really, I'm not disparaging him. He really is a speed rusher with one move, right?
Mm-hmm.
The best teams at slowing down TJ Watt have lined up tight ends where they briefly chip and then they go release and route. What you want to do with Watt, because he basically is playing like a wide 9, is just make his path further away, right? That's the best way to stop TJ Watt. Is you don't have to have a back ready to chip him. Just put the tight end out there and make him have to go a longer distance to get to your quarterback.
So maybe this becomes a really big Lipke game, right? You get a lot of opportunity. You don't necessarily have to pull your 12 personnel out there. You could pull 20 personnel out there,
sure,
and put Lipke as the wing guy and have him chip and then release into the flat or something, just to kind of help with the pass protection a little bit. You have to be careful with some of that stuff. I think it's better to try to do that, on the TJ Watt side, because he is, like you said, more coming from a more wide angle. But you have to be careful when they're closer in on the tackle, not in a 5, but more of a 6. Because if you chip them, sometimes you can knock them into the free gap inside, and
that's what you don't want to do. No,
you need to make sure that there's a lot of coordination between your tackles and whoever the chipper is there, that you don't accidentally chip them into an open gap and give them a free run at the quarterback.
All right, let's talk about this Cowboys defense against the Steelers offense. The Cowboys will be without at least 2 all-pros on defense. How will they survive on that side of the ball? We will get to it next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. We absolutely love PrizePicks. It is the best way to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Again, you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and does not return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup in play. Right now, go download the app and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are previewing the Cowboys-Steelers Sunday night football matchup on NBC. Later, let's talk about the Cowboys defense in this one, because that's the unit that I'm the most concerned about. How do they slow down Justin Fields in this rushing attack on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's going to just need to be a real focus and hopefully continued improvement there, right? I think at this point, we don't have Micah Parsons, we don't have Lawrence, and I think that they are just going to have to use the guys that they've got, which listen, here's the other thing about this is that I do think that the guys that are stepping in, they can hold up in the run. If as long as they're playing sound football, that's more my concern is that they're playing, the gaps correctly. These are both of the guys that the Cowboys have playing in replacement of these 2 incredible players are both themselves top 100 picks, right? It's Golson, it's Nealon. These guys are quality, athletes. It's not like these are scrubs that we just picked off the street. The Cowboys have actually done a decent job kind of filling the depth chart here. So I think what you need solid snaps from these guys on first and second down. You got to find a way to win on first and second down. Focus on being sound in the run game. they're playing with with a little bit of a compromised offensive line. So maybe
Which
you could
let me run through
yeah,
that
go ahead,
really
please.
quickly. So
Yeah.
Dan Moore's the starting left tackle. He
Mhm.
started all 4 games. At left guard, I believe it's going to be Isaac Siamalu, who has not played yet this year. This is his first game.
And he
He's
was limited today, and
yeah,
he was actually limited in practice
he's
today.
probably their best offensive lineman when he's healthy. We'll see. Zach Frazier's their rookie center, who's played very well. The right guard is Mason McCormick, who was a left guard last week. He's a 4th-round pick this year from, I believe it's South Dakota State. And then the right tackle is Broderick Jones, who was a 1st-round pick from last year, but they actually drafted Troy Fatanu to replace him as the right tackle. So they've had a lot of moving parts. It's another week with a new offensive line combination. Some big name players like Broderick Jones and Frazier, but has not been a great unit so far.
No, not necessarily. And even the guy you mentioned that was playing guard, I think is it McCollum who's playing right guard?
It's going to be Mason McCormick that's playing right guard.
Okay, it's McCormick. Yeah, so even McCormick, I'm pretty sure has been rotating his job previously with
this is only his second career start. Yeah,
yeah. So it's not even when there wasn't an injury situation, this guy was not necessarily the first choice, to be the replacement. So all being said is that I don't know that there's like such a talent disparity on the offensive line versus our defensive line. I think that if they can be sound in their gap, fits, that this defense should be able to find a way to kind of stop the run. Now, where the problem will become is attacking them with pass rushers, because these guys are not, listen, maybe this is a Marshawn Nealon breakout game. I'm certainly hoping that the exposure does that, but even that's not likely to happen. And I think Golson is a very good pass rusher when he's put inside. I think sometimes on the outside he leaves some things to be desired. So I do think that this is where you're going to need to see Zimmer kind of really step in and kind of create some of the pass rush. Using blitzes, using sim pressures, finding ways to attack a young quarterback who Justin Fields is obviously he's been in the league for a couple of years, but hasn't necessarily started a ton. And is still kind of seeing things for the first time in a new offense. So I do think that Justin Fields has done very well. And I think you look at the last 3 weeks, he's definitely improved each week. But I think that this is still another level when you talk about Zim opening up his playbook and starting to attack Justin Fields. So the key thing is going to be getting them into 3rd down situations, being sound, just, having a plan for Justin Fields as a runner, and just getting them into situations where you're finally able to get into known passing downs, and then using Zim's schemes to kind of attack Fields in the pocket on 3rd down.
And that's where the Colts got beat last week. Was they were covering really well despite a banged up secondary. But these plays would go on 4, 5, 6 seconds long, and there would be nobody there to spy Justin Fields. And he would, on a 3rd and 11, be able to run for 12 yards, slide, pick up the 1st down. So that can't happen, right? If you're not creating pressure with your front 4, you really can't allow the quarterback to slip out and get free yardage that way.
That's right.
I want to mention the running game. So it's an Arthur Smith wide zone rushing attack.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Najee Harris is their starting running back, but Jalen Warren, who's their explosive running back, he's out.
Yeah.
Cordero Patterson actually was running better than Najee last week. He's out for this game as well. Najee is a very physical runner. He's probably their best wide zone runner. He doesn't have a lot of top end speed, so you're not, knock on wood, you don't have to worry about like the 60-yard touchdowns, right? But you have to gang tackle him, right?
Yeah.
Like he is a big running back. If you're concerned about the lack of speed in the Cowboys front 7, this is not a terrible matchup for you, but you can't let him take a 1st and 10-yard run that should go for 3 yards and now have it go for 6 yards. Like that's how you're going to lose this game.
Yeah, look, I mean, I do think that on the second level for the Cowboys, this is a good matchup. For the Cowboys, like finally, I think on the linebacker level, if they can stay clean, they should be able to handle the athleticism of Harris, that without the other running backs in the backfield to kind of supplement that and with their athleticism. It is kind of more of a plotting backfield. I mean, frankly, like the Cowboys backfield. So I think that it's an opportunity for them to kind of, like I said, just keep it all in front of them. But this starts up front. The Cowboys have got to find a way to get the same kind of play that they had last week out of Mozzie Smith and Linval Joseph against, look, I love Zach Frazier coming out, but I do think that this is an inferior interior three that than average, right? Than most. Zach Frazier is a great player, but he's still very young, and they should be able to find ways to take advantage of these opportunities. Sayamalu is a guy that the Cowboys are pretty familiar with, having played with the Eagles previously. So I think that the Cowboys, if they could get similar kind of Mozzie Smith, not even expecting last week's Mozzie Smith, but if he could find a way to play halfway between that and what we've seen in the previous weeks, keep our linebackers clean, they have the athleticism to contain Harris, and then hopefully focus really on the explosive, dangerous threat in this run game now is going to be Justin Fields. It's not going to be, because they don't have the running backs now to kind of facilitate that. So the explosion from the run game, whether that's manufactured generated runs or in scrambles, is going to come from Justin Fields, and they have got to have a plan for that. And hopefully it's something like Overshown or someone spying and keeping him always on top of him.
I'm going to be curious to see how Mike Zimmer calls this game. Like, do they play a more conservative brand of defense and basically force Pittsburgh to try to put together these 9, 10, 11 play drives where they're traveling the length of the field, and then it comes down to your red zone defense? I actually hope that's not what Dallas does, because that's exactly what Pittsburgh wants to do, right? They want these long drives, keep their defense off the field and fresh. Where you look at Pittsburgh is, I'm looking at the stat right now, they are 0-29 in their last 29 games when they have a negative turnover differential of at least -2. Like, they are not a team that can overcome turnovers because they don't have that passing attack yet, right?
Yeah.
So is this a game where Zimmer maybe tries to press the issue a little bit, where they're aggressive blitzing, or the corners jumping more of some of these routes? I'm going to be curious to see, because I don't think allowing Pittsburgh to put together these long drives that keeps the Cowboys offense off the field is good for this team. I don't think you're going to win a game that way.
Yeah, and I also think that attacking is the way to go. Look, I mean, you're down 2 of your best players, right? Like, if you go into your shell even further, it's not like you have the talent necessarily to play that way and actually make a difference in the football game. Force the issue. Justin Fields, like, this is not, the 49ers offense. All right. Like, this is not like some elite offense. If you press the issue, there's a good chance that Justin Fields will make mistakes and will turn the ball over. They have young players playing running back now as well. I mean, Harris is not, but they've got, I think it's Aaron Shemplin, what's his name, that they called up from the practice squad as their running back too. So press the issue, makes them have to make decisions on the fly, make Champlin have to pass protect and read.
He got benched last week because of his pass protection. The very first play that he was out there, Justin Fields got rocked because he's a bad pass blocker.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, and it confused them, make them not sure of what they're seeing. And a couple of hits where Justin Fields didn't see the blitzer or didn't know he was coming. And now suddenly his eyes are dropping and he's not trying to look down the field and he's panicked. Listen, again, they have similar athleticism. They both play quarterback, but Justin Fields is not Lamar Jackson in the sense that he won't keep taking those hits and continue to be as efficient down the field. That's just, he's not developed that part of his game yet. So attack him, press the issue, make Justin Fields have to solve your defense in order to score. Don't give him easy looks and hope that he makes a mistake on his own. This is a Steelers team that's very well coached. They are not going to let this team just make those kind of mistakes. You got to press the issue.
I remember a game, this was a couple years ago now, when Brian Flores was the head coach in Miami. They actually played the Ravens on I think it was a Thursday night game, and Miami was down a bunch of players in that game. So what did they do? They were basically lining up like they were going to blitz 8 guys on every play, and they were going to force the Ravens to show that they could beat it. And they never did, right? It just ended up being, we're going to make it so hard for you on offense where, yes, if you beat us for a 75-yard touchdown, great, you did it. But at least our offense is back on the field. I would like to see Zimmer deploy that strategy rather than sitting back in soft zones, making Pittsburgh run the ball. And now that's where Fields can use his legs and they can use the short passing game. Like, I don't think that favors Dallas. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
We don't have Kalen. We may not have Kalen Carson. We don't want to have a situation where we're having these guys that we signed off the street have to cover for extremely long periods of time. Attack them. Force the issue. Don't have your guys sitting back there covering for 4 seconds. That's not a way to win.
Nope. All right, let's make our predictions for this Week 5 matchup between the Cowboys and Steelers. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You can go bet on the Cowboys right now to upset the Steelers. They are 2.5-point underdogs over on FanDuel. You can bet on the under. I think this is going to be a fairly low-scoring game, probably. We'll see. You can also go check out the futures market. Right now, the Commanders are the favorites to win the NFC East. The Eagles are next. The Cowboys are actually in third. So if you think the Cowboys are going to come back and win this division, go check out all of those lines over on FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the new Locked On NFL show. We've got 2 shows every single day, one in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins. They do a fantastic job. Check them out wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Landon, prediction time. Biggest game of the season for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to keep saying that. Who do you think wins this one?
I think, I picked the Steelers, I think, this week. This is a tough game. I just think that going on the road in a very tough environment, potentially with some weather issues, it just feels like there are a lot of things mounting on the Cowboys that are going to make this a very, very difficult game. I think the reason I think this is probably a 50-50 coin flip game is because I believe in Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I think there is a good chance that they, get fully back into the swing of things and just simply eviscerate the Steelers defense in the air. But short of something like that happening, I just think this is a difficult matchup for the Cowboys this week because of all the injuries, because of all the other things. I just think it's going to be an uphill climb with an offense that is still kind of shaking off a little bit of the rust from the off season. That's still kind of trying to get into the swing of things.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a low scoring affair. I just don't know that these are very good offenses yet, as far as putting up a load of points. So I'm going to pick the Steelers to win 24-21.
I'm with you. I do think this is a Steelers win. Steelers generally pretty good in primetime games at home, coming off a loss. They need this one as well, just as bad as Dallas does. I'm going to give you some stats later that I want to just throw out. I want your thoughts. First of all, can you guess how many times the Cowboys and Steelers have played against one another?
Oh, all time? It's probably not a lot. I would say
they had a lot in the 60s. I will say that.
Oh, okay. Let's say 75 times?
Lower than that. It's 33 times. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Dallas,
okay.
Dallas right now has the lead 17-16. Not that matters, but so again, just pointing this stat out. They played 33 times. In 9 of those games, Pittsburgh has had 0 penalties. Just pointing that out there.
That's not surprising because Pittsburgh is like notorious for not having penalties.
9 times that the Cowboys and Steelers played, there's been 0 penalties on Pittsburgh.
Amazing.
Just pointing that out. Do you know who our referee is this weekend?
It's
our guy Sean Hockley.
Oh no, is it really? Well, I fully double down on my pick then for the Cowboys.
We also have just putting all this out there. We have the Steeler beat reporters making a big deal nationally that TJ Watt has gone 3 games without a holding call now by himself. Not 3 months like the Cowboys have went that 1 year.
3 weeks. That's it, huh?
3 weeks. It does feel like this is setting up for this to be a big Pittsburgh win. However, Mike Tomlin has not been great a lot of times in games where they're expected to win, right? A lot of times their team is a little bit too overconfident. I do think there is a possibility where if the Cowboys can come out hot, which has not happened yet this year, like the offense has not had one of those games. Maybe this is the week where you come out, you score touchdowns on back-to-back drives to open the game. And all of a sudden now Pittsburgh feels like they have to press a little bit. You take the crowd out of the game. That is one of the paths to victory that I could see. But man, you need the offense. This cannot be a week where the Cowboys have a slow start on offense and have 3 points after 3 drives.
I was just going to say, I think one of the other paths of victory here is that, whenever you play young players or give them bigger opportunities than they've ever had before, there's always the chance that one of these guys simply shows up in a way that you just never expect, right? Marshawn Nealon comes in and has 2 sacks, or Jalen Tolbert has 85 yards and 2 touchdowns, right?
Well, I mean, the Cowboy fans know this. It was Miles Austin's first start ever at Kansas City in a big game. He had 215 yards and 2 touchdowns and won them that game.
The game winner. Yeah.
So it's not unheard of, right? But I think you need not of that level, but something like that where we're leading the show talking about, hey, Oso Odigizua had a massive game, and that's why the Cowboys won.
Amani O,
exactly.
had two more interceptions in this game or something like that. That's the kind of, we need a breakout performance by one of our young unexpected stars in order to kind of put us over the top. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I'm hoping as well, because if not, I don't want to hear it from all the Steelers fans locally. Yeah. It's already rough. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen of the day. Go check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. You can follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosier. Somebody will be back to break this down on Monday. Probably just Landon. We'll see. Enjoy Sunday Night Football. We'll see you on Monday.